Is technology ruining hunting? Now, this is the Uncut series, no editing. Everybody knows the rules. You know, looking back at the past several years of bow hunting, there's definitely a lot of advancements in technology, and hunters are sitting there grabbing everything they can. I think we need to stop and look at the future and what that's really doing to the sport and if that's still hunting. And I know this might make some people upset, but it is what it is. I'm going to call them how I see them. And I've got a list of items here that I think really need to be considered. Is that hunting? Is that the sport that we have all grown to love? I think we have to look at right now. You have fallen in love with the sport of hunting because there is some mystery, because there is some primitive aspects to it. I mean, we are at a state and time that if you really want food, you go to the grocery store. And the sport of hunting, yes, there's conservation involved, but there's some history, some heritage, and you know, gives us just a red-blooded American feel. But let's also remember that we are choosing to partake in this thing, and we want it around for the next generation. Starting things off, I mean, look at probably one of the greatest, biggest pieces of technology that came around, the crossbow. And you can't tell me today's crossbows are what they were when they were first introduced. And I know there was people screaming about them back then. And let's call a spade a spade. A crossbow in today's world is not a bow. It's way closer to rifle speed and ability than it is a bow. A stick bow. A bow made out of something grown in the woods that you pull back with a string, holding weight and letting it go. Like it's sending a projectile through the woods. Like, I'm sorry, but a crossbow doesn't resemble a traditional bow in much ability, minus some of the shape of the limbs. And you could argue today too. You go into a sporting goods store and pointed to something on the wall, and an uneducated person might say that's an AR-15 and not a crossbow, just due to what they were putting them through and how they look, and 6-inch profile, shooting laser beams through the woods. Now, I do think crossbows have a place, and they're a great way to introduce somebody to the woods and get them involved in the sport of hunting. But they're half a gun. They're not a bow. Let's go ahead and just pocket those into their own season. If you want to dabble in that space, you can dabble in that space, and we give those people a certain allotted days, just like a muzzleloader, and let's be done with it. And you can't tell me that rewind 20 years ago when crossbows were coming onto the scene, people looked at it, and if you knew the future, you would exercise, I think, more caution into accepting crossbows statewide. I mean, look at the state of Iowa. Why is it one of the greatest bow hunting states in the U.S. for deer? Crossbows are not, full legal there. So I just think that's some interesting spot. The aiming sight thing is also on my list here. That technology that Garmin has, I think, is a little bit of dog shit, where you can never shoot a 62-yard shot all summer, and all of a sudden with a little tappy tap, it gives you your pin of where you need to put the arrow, and you can shoot. I don't think we need that as far as part of the piece of the puzzle. Just not a fan. I'm sorry. Yeah, the fact that you can double tap and get a range and never have shot an arrow at that distance, well, kind of like you're taking like a skill aspect out of the sport that we all love. Drones, obviously, drones are somewhat legal and illegal, depending on where you go, what you do. But I think the ability to perform some sketchy shit needs to be looked at here with drones, right? Like, the thermal recovery is becoming very popular, and I think people are going to take advantage of that. You're giving somebody an opportunity to take advantage. I mean, that's what people do when they see loopholes. I think it's hard to prove to somebody that you've hit a deer and now you're going to drone thermal over. Oh, yeah, well, thanks for locating his current bedding area or bedding location. Same thing with, like, thermal drone use in the summer. Like, not sure that that's something we want in the overall sport aspect of it. Now, I do think, like, okay, DNRs doing deer surveys, yeah, that's a solid play. But I just think there's too much sketchiness that can be had. Like, oh, I'm just flying my thermal drone. I happen to see some deer, and I'm hunting in 2 days from now. Like, hmm. And you can't tell me there's not guys with big enough checkbooks that are just going to buy their own thermal drone and not like use some of these like service guys that have made the jump. Plus, we know the rule of technology, right? Like a thermal drone in 5 years will be very affordable. It's just, I mean, look at the cell phone thing. Look at the flat screen TVs when they first came out, and then the price is 3 to 5 years later. It's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm going to call it cell cams. I think you got to, right? The fact that yes, you can go perform a hideous act of getting a picture, walking over there and hunting and killing that deer. Like that's a very non-natural way to receive deer hunting information. But I also think too, like the guys that scatter the woods and don't kill that deer, that 24, 48 hours later, but kill it a week or two later because they're like not scouting and hunting their property because they're just watching the cell cams. Like there's clearly a non-natural, unfair chase aspect to it. And let's also be real. Look at your future of gun season. Like a future great tactic of gun season is scatter your woods with cell cams, hunt close to where you got the overnight pictures. You're generally going to be in the game. Literally, you could drive down a road and be like, overnight we had 2 bucks on this hillside. We should probably hunt that side with a firearm where you can now kill things at a distance. That's just a scary thought about the future of gun hunting. So yeah, I think the cell cam thing definitely needs to be looked at. And you talk about affordability. Right now, they're already sub $200 for pretty reliable stuff. You look in 10 years, guys are going to have arsenals of 100 cell cams. And is that hunting, or are we just going to a surveillance type approach to the sport where all you do is survey and you hunt 2 times a year and you shoot a nice one? I mean, that literally is already happening where guys are saying, oh, he daylighted, drive states away and kill. Like, that's not, like, how did he receive that information? He wasn't even in the state, but yet it was such a critical part of the hunt. Come on now. Like, the deer can win sometimes, folks. And we need to look at all this technology that's coming into the sport and think, okay, in 5 years, 10 years, is data plans and looking at a screen going to be more important than deer trails, tracks, poop on the ground? Like, what have we done to the sport of bow hunting at that point, right? Because that doesn't resemble, the outdoor recreation, which is hunting. So I think we need to look at, I think we need to exercise caution. I think we use Crossbows as a learning experience that you allow tech and the sport can really change. And I think we need to look at it because right now, if we keep accepting all this new technology, I don't think the hunters of the future will be as passionate about the sport, will even resemble hunting as we know it. You could argue even now, bows are bows, but I think some of the aspects coming in 10 years, hunting will look so different. It's not, I think, the direction we want the sport to go in. I think we need to remember that. There's something primal about getting out there one-on-one with an animal and taking it home and harvesting it. Like, guys, that's in human nature. Good luck out there, guys. Thanks for watching.